You could do it too.
What's that?
Shall we shave? Shall we do a shaving?
Sure, we shave.
Shave it, Bobo. Shave it, As you present your ball sack to me, I will inform you that I only work with a straight razor.
Okay.
And I don't have a terribly steady hand.
Well, like, same with me.
Manscaped Bobo. Manscaped Bobo. That's all the time we have. Thank you. All right, fine. Misha Burbank. This is the first time. This is the first time. I'm sorry. You're like,
No.
This is the first time I've seen you.
Yes.
Since the birth of your child.
Yes. I know, crazy, right? Yeah. You got it so early. Good, it's going great. I mean, you're not sleeping a ton.
Right.
But that's,
That lasts until they go to
until
college.
they go to college, right? But besides that, it's awesome. She's great. She's adorable. She has root size.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, thank God. And yeah, she's really cute. Yeah, she's adorable.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, it's a couple.
I can't wait to come over.
Yeah.
Is Ruth here this week?
Yeah, she'll be here.
Are you doing a show and tell?
A who?
A show and tell?
Of the baby?
Yeah.
No, not today because, germs.
You want him to live.
Yeah. Yeah, but because she's just 2 months old. But in a little bit, she'll be old enough. She'll have her own panel.
I love it when you're at these conventions and people come up and they're like, she's just 3 days old. We took her out of the NICU for this photo. No, don't be here.
Keep her away from me. Yeah, I love you, buddy. Have fun.
Thanks, bye. I was dropping my kids off at their friend's house this morning, and as we got in the car, I had occasion, like my kids are much older now, they're 11 and 13. We talk to each other like people now. And they had a little altercation, which resulted in my daughter throwing a filled Nalgene water bottle at her brother, but it hit me instead. And then she tried to stomp on his iPad. And then I used some very adult words. Like adults talk to each other. I said, what the are you doing? And then later as we were driving, I had to be like, I'm sorry I yelled so scarily. And my daughter was like, well, I was stomping on the iPad. And I get it. We came to terms. It was nice, but it was a nice little send-off for the weekend. I was like, hi kids. Over time, as a parent, you really figure things out. So you just figure out how it works. And if you're scary, that's the only thing that works. Hi everyone, it's so nice to see you. We've taken such a long break from these creation conventions. It's been so long, I forget how to do this. How are you, and would you like to ask me a question?
No, I'm just here to look at things.
Oh, great. Well, we can do that, that's fine. I didn't look at my schedule properly, and I thought I was coming up on stage with Jensen here. Can you imagine my excitement when I was like, thank God, I don't have to deal with it. Hi.
I saw your video with the AI robot.
Yes.
And I was very curious, what would you have done if she kept flirting with you and had asked you out?
Well, you don't know what happened after the video cut out. I was actually escorted out of the building for trying to have my way with the robot. Those of you who didn't see this, oh my God, it was mind-blowing. So I went with the kids to the Sphere experience. You've all seen that probably on social media by now, where they're like YouTube concerts are happening. And it's this incredible, the world's largest screen. They spent like $2 billion building it. It's just insane, and it really is. It's an amazing immersive experience. But before you even get into the Sphere, they have these AI robots that are in the atrium, and there's like crowds of people gathered around, just shouting out questions to the robots, and the robots are responding. And they're fixed on these sort of pedestals, so they don't have articulating legs, but their torsos and their arms move. And I was standing there, kind of freaked out, because it's so lifelike, and the face has these nuanced expressions that are amazing that robots are actually having this effect. And I'm a little freaked out, and I'm with the kids, and they're kind of a little freaked out. And I asked this question, I wanted to ask a question like, do you ever have the experience of people being afraid of you? Which is the question I wanted to ask. I raised my hand to ask the question, kind of afraid myself. There's something about it that's just so weird. And she says, what's your name? And I say, Misha. And she says, Collins? What the fuck? How did you know my name? And she says, you have a very recognizable smile and blue eyes. And then she starts like, and then we have this like back and forth. She starts doing this like, she winks at me, there's this whole thing. And then she makes this like comment that she then has to censor. She's like, I guess I won't say that. Like, she was gonna say something too tawdry and like her circuit's overloaded. It was like, not allowed to say that, not allowed to talk about SDL. But it was actually a truly terrifying experience because it was so lifelike, and she fucking recognized me. And she has cameras behind her eyes, so her eyes are tracking the crowd and looking at people. It was intense. My daughter asked her a question too, and it was like 15 minutes later, and I was like, Mason, what's up? You're shaking. And she's like, yeah, I know, I'm still shaking. That was so weird. It was really weird. Anyway, thanks for bringing that up. I mean, the truth is, for me, it was just awesome, because I was like, she recognized me. You know how rare that is for me? It's pretty awesome. Yeah. But probably these AI robots are going to be able to recognize everyone, which is so creepy. But at least we'll feel known, I suppose. Thank you. Hi. Hi, Cass. Is that your birth name?
Yeah, Sandra Picasso.
Well, that's amazing.
Even before all this. So.
You were the original, the OG.
Yeah,
Cass.
it's like the script for 2 S's.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
have a question. I'm attending your comedy show tonight.
How do you know it's a comedy show?
It's you. So.
It's a sadness show tonight, is what it is. Yeah. No. No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering what drink you would recommend pairing with your show.
Ayahuasca. I think that's the only way that it will make sense to you. Yeah. Can you get ayahuasca at the bar? Yeah, I'm sure they have that. Yeah. Do you guys know what ayahuasca is? Ayahuasca is this mixture of various different, very intense hallucinogenic plants that has been concocted over centuries in the Amazon rainforest. It's like shaman in the Amazon put this together, and people take it. And Western hippies have discovered it, and now it's like a big thing in Silicon Valley. Everybody's doing it. Ayahuasca. I was talking to a friend of mine who's an entrepreneur who makes a ton of money and has started and run lots of companies and then keeps selling them. Super successful. And I was like, "What are you up to this weekend?" And he's like, oh, I'm gonna go do a ceremony. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, plant medicine. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, ayahuasca. I'm like, are you kidding? Is that like for total burnouts? And he's like, well, I've done it about 400 times. It's a weekend-long experience where you stay up for 3 days and you're vomiting and you can't talk to anyone and you're completely out of it for 3 days. Anyway, but yeah, they do have ayahuasca tonight in the show. I don't know, it's funny, so I'm gonna make a little confession here. I get up on stage here and I often have to censor myself. And I thought, wouldn't it be nice to not have to censor myself? And so that was sort of the genesis of the idea of like doing this other panel, this dark panel. But there's some like, personal stories embedded within it, things that are kind of embarrassing, things that I haven't really told anyone before. And so I had my friend Darius was like, you want to run that thing by me? And I can give you some feedback? And I was like, no, man, I'm not going to let you hear that. It's mortifying. And then I realized, what the hell am I doing? The people in my life that know me best, I don't want them to hear what I'm saying. Why the fuck am I doing this? So tonight I will be telling some stories, but I've never done any of this in front of anyone. Tonight's my first rehearsal. Which is a funny thing to charge people money for. Oh well.
It seemed like a good idea.
It seemed like a good idea at the time, yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry for those of you who will be there tonight. Yeah.
Thank you, Misha.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name is Troya. I just saw you 30 minutes ago.
We took a photo together.
I asked if you could pick me up and you said no.
I'm sorry. In the past, I have picked people up and people have picked me up in the photo ops. And there have been instances in both scenarios where people were injured. So creation has been very firm about their no picking up rule, which we still sometimes violate, sometimes by accident, like when people jump on us.
So I'm a writer and Castiel is a really big inspiration for me in a lot of my work. And I wanted to ask you for a writing prompt.
A writing prompt? My mind is a blank. Castiel at IKEA. We just crowdsourced a solution to your problem. I have this game that I play with the kids, which is, for some reason, I hate coming up with ideas for stories. So the kids will be like, tell me a story, and I'm like, my mind is a blank, I don't have any stories, sorry. But then I say, give me an idea for a story, and the kids will be like, IKEA. And then that's the prompt, and then I'll tell like a story from life about IKEA. And I love that game, because there's usually some thread that you can pull on. There's usually, like for example, you mentioned IKEA. There's an IKEA here in Burbank that I used to go to when I was trying to furnish my first house. And I would go into IKEA, and IKEA is set up so that you can't get to the thing that you want to get without going through a maze and having to pass a mile of other products. And you invariably have this cart, and you're like, oh, I did need another lamp, didn't I? Oh, some ceramic pots. Yes, I could use those. And I went through this so many times, and I finally get to the doormat that I came into IKEA for in the first place. The doormat section at the end, and I pick up the doormat, and I realize, like, those fuckers got me again. I have a full cart. And I can't tell you how many times this happened, but I was like, no, not today, IKEA. fuck you. And I would walk away and leave the cart, having driven, by the way, a half an hour to get here, get in my car, leave empty-handed, and be like, I won this round, IKEA. I got you. I really, truly hate that store. But it's very economical. Anyway, I think you got your answer.
Okay.
Yeah. Hi.
Hello. My question is, what have you learned about yourself and the characters that you played in your career?
I've learned from playing Castiel, I have a touch of autism. I actually have discovered that in playing each of my characters, each of the characters that I've played along the way, I've discovered that I think we are, God, how can I articulate this without sounding like a crazy actor? A filter that I'm always trying to apply, by the way. I have always been interested in this question, like, how is it that we can become monsters? I remember reading about the Hutus and the Tutsis and the genocide that took place, where neighbors were just coming out of their homes and murdering with machetes neighbors that they had lived next to for their whole lives. Like, suddenly people just turned on one another and became just this army of killing machines. And I always wondered how that is. Like, how do we flip the switch and go from being a normal, functioning in society person to being somebody who's able to pull the trigger or swing the sword and kill them? And when I was playing a serial killer in this terrible movie, but I really worked on the role quite a bit. And I found that I was having his dreams and thinking his thoughts. And when I was cast in the role initially, I was like, oh my God, they're gonna fire me. Like, they're gonna realize I'm the biggest softie in the world, and I don't have a violent tendency in me. And my children would make it different. But it did have a point. Thank you for acknowledging that. But I found that it was like in there somewhere. And I actually think that we have all these layers, all of us have all these layers in us that we just don't typically access. Like, we have our default operating system, which is our personality that we present to the world. But if you probe your own psyche and your own fantasies and your own weird inner life, you'll discover actually that there's so many different possibilities for how you can actually show up in the world. And when you really dive into an acting role, even if you're totally untalented, you end up tapping into some of those alternate personalities. And so I guess one of the things that I learned about myself through acting in general is that I show up in the world with just one or two versions of the Misha that I could be, and actually there's a huge Rolodex of personalities and potential that I think we're all imbued with, but we just by default follow the path of least resistance and walk through life with the personality that we have shown up with front and center most of the time. I don't know, does that make any sense? It didn't feel like it did. Okay, all right, thanks. Hi.
Hi. After touring Vancouver, I was wondering your favorite supernatural shooting location, and also how much trouble did you and Jared get for playing in the sulfur, because it looked really fun.
I wish you hadn't brought that up. We shot all over the place with Supernatural. It was it was like the end of season 12 or something like that, where we were at this house on the end of a point with the sea all around. I think it made it look like a lake, but it was actually an ocean inlet. I don't know if you remember what I'm talking about. Whatever season. That was so beautiful. That was like a good like hour and 20 minutes out of town. It was like 2.5 hours from my house. So I ended up renting an Airbnb nearby, and it was a big enough Airbnb, according to the listing, for Jared and Jensen and Cliff to all stay there as well. And I was like, hey guys, why don't you just crash up here so you're not leaving? There's like a long drive back into town. And I was like, the place is big enough. It turns out it was a 2-bedroom. I was like, I finally got them where I want them. Jared slept on the floor next to my bed.
There was only one bed.
There was only one bed. It was a twin-size bed. So we had this stacked vertically. So the phone rings at this Airbnb, and Jared answers, and it's an attorney. And it's my name on this Airbnb rental. They assume it's me. He picks up the phone, and it's an attorney closing some big deal or trying to pull out of a deal. And Jared is like, no, listen, we went over this. Let's just close it. Let's just be done with it and sign the deal. He has no idea what we're talking about. For all we know, he just bought an office building on behalf of the owner of this house. And I try to take the phone from Jared. Cliff, motherfucker, blocks me. So I run downstairs to the office that's downstairs in this Airbnb, where I know there's another phone, or no, I don't know. I'm hoping there's another phone, but I pick it up and it's connected to a different line. They're not there, and I turn around and now the door has been shut. And someone's foot is on the door, and I am locked in this office, helpless, while Jared is closing some deal. It unfortunately had pay-per-view pornography as well, which Jared selected all of the gay male pay-per-view movies he could and rented them. I don't feel bad about him sleeping on the floor. I will tell you that. So you asked about the sulfur, and this is a memory that I've actually tried to forget. So for those of you who don't know, I was on the show called Supernatural. And one of the recurring themes in Supernatural is that when a demon shows up, you can smell sulfur, presumably because the odors of hell follow them around. And in Vancouver, there is this huge open-air pile of sulfur. It's like a major export point for sulfur. And there's this gigantic yellow pile that you can see from pretty much anywhere downtown Vancouver, across the water in North Vancouver. There's this huge industrial site with this giant open-air pile of sulfur. And we ended up filming in that industrial park. And I was like, to one of the, they have what's called site supervisors. So people who, like, for example, work at the plant, who have been assigned while there's a film crew there to monitor us and watch us and make sure everything goes well. And I say, would it be possible for us to go and check out that sulfur pile? Because it's something that we've always seen, and also it would be like a pretty good fan service to take a photo with the sulfur, which I didn't say, but that's what I was thinking. And so anyway, Jared and I go and check out the sulfur pile, and Facebook at that time had just come out with this live stream function, which was all the rage. everybody's like nervous about it. Like, what is this live streaming business? Isn't that gonna like cause all kinds of problems? And I'm like, I'm gonna use this live stream function of me and Jared playing in the sulfur. So we're like, we get in there, we do a little playing around in the sulfur, and I ask a question of the guy who's like the site supervisor, and he's like, no. He gets fired. Yeah. Fucking asshole. Can you believe that? And I tried everything I could to try to undo that, but you are not allowed on the sulfur pile, it turns out. Oops. So yeah, you can really get in trouble, or even worse, get other people in trouble with live streaming. So be very careful with it, and that's the moral of the story. Try to turn it into a moral, which is me being an asshole. But yeah, thanks for bringing that horrible memory up. Hi. I mean, you don't want to work at a sulfur pile anyway, right? I'm sure he's on to better things. Get him a favor. Hi.
So you've already talked to your panel a little bit about AI and how it's kind of a double-edged sword. That was a big deal, obviously, with the strike and everything. Kind of the risk to actors, and then as you have to deal with that as an actor, but also you kind of express interest in being in other production roles and stuff. So my question is, what would you do to protect your actors against the dangers of AI when we finally get the supernatural puppet show?
Well, that's a very good question. I forgot about the Supernatural Puppet Show. I'm sorry to have dropped the ball on that, but yes, that is definitely something that should be put back up in the forefront burner. I think that's something that they didn't talk about at all in the strike. Like, how is any of this gonna ultimately impact puppets? It's really kind of speciesist, don't you think? That really pisses me off. I mean, in one sense, I think there is going to be some positive benefit to puppets in the industry because, like if you look at something like Team America, right, with all of the marionette puppets, like a lot of people look at that as a great opportunity for all of those puppets. But if you think about it, they're actually really just puppets in the movie, and it's a human pulling on the strings, right? They don't actually get to, move freely because they have to have a human pull on the strings. But in the world of AI, now, potentially, puppets can move freely without humans. And in a way, it would be quite liberating for them. So, I think that there's a wide open frontier, and it potentially has the possibility of leveling the playing field for puppets. People won't work anymore, but that's fine. We've had a lot of work, and it's time for us to take a break. I was talking to J.C. Spate, wife, poor woman, to Richard Spate, and she said, she's worked recently in some companies that have real tech bro culture, and one of them called her a big company. One of them called her and said, "This is pretty awesome. This AI stuff has been amazing. We just laid off our whole graphic design division. Isn't that awesome?" And she was like, "Oh my god, you asshole!" But that's happening everywhere if you think about it. I don't know if you've seen any of these AI video renderings now. You can just type in to an AI video generator a prompt, and it will generate the best CGI you have ever seen of the video clip that you've just described, which means that everyone working in Hollywood in CGI is out of work. Just a few years from now, they'll be gone. And one of the things SAG was like, "We will not let you take advantage of our actors with AI." But then we read the contract and it's like, "Well, actually, no, you did. You let them take advantage of us with AI. Now, we actors can license our voice to a company for a negotiated fee, and then they can use our voice. And what that means is actors are just not going to go do voiceover recording anymore. All of those studios are going to be shut down. Actors who are very famous and well known will just sign a contract to have their voice used. And all of the other working voiceover actors are going to be gone because they're not going to be needed anymore. It's going to be a weird time. One of the other things that they do is like they're going to use AI to fix performances for actors. And that can only be a boon for someone like me. Like, thank God, you know? I don't have to be like, oh, can I do another take? I felt like I wasn't really feeling it. It's like, just AI that for me, it'll be fine. It'll be a strange time, for sure. I'm totally freaked out about AI, but everybody I talk to is like, it's fine. It's not fine. We're all gonna die. Anyway, next question.
Lean in and then lean out about AI stuff. So last couple times, I'm so nervous.
You're doing great.
So my daughter's LJ, her dad a couple of months ago asked for a prompt. Ginkgos. I'm wearing the shirt that says this is her painting that we gave.
Oh, of Ginkgos. I thought you said Kinkos, and I was like, I don't recall that, but I do remember Ginkgos. Yes.
Okay, and so in the spirit of all of this AI, I mean, yeah, okay. Can you give another prompt to LJ? Because this was something that really got her focused and inspired, and just as the mom, and she's going into art, so I want to recognize what's going on out there,
Yes.
but then, you know.
How about Cass at IKEA?
I mean, she does the best passes, but can I have a prompt?
You want another prompt? God.
Two.
In a sense, this crowdsourcing is like AI. It's the collective mind. What you didn't hear was Cass on ayahuasca. Could be interesting. I feel like we kind of actually saw that at some point over the 15 years of Supernatural. How about Cass in a Dali style environment? How about that?
Hey, she'll see. I mean,
Great.
yeah.
All right. I like that. Okay. Hi.
Hi, Misha. Is there a piece of advice that someone has given you that you keep coming back to again and again over the years?
Well, we were just talking about in the green room about a phrase that I reflect on frequently. Maybe it's a pearl of wisdom, which could be disguised as advice, which is speaking of childhood and raising children. The days are long, but the years are short, and I think that is very, very true. It feels at times like it's very easy to be frustrated and, for example, to use the F word at your child when they hurl a hard object at you. But in those moments of frustration, or the moments when, do you have kids? In the moments when you kind of want to tap out or opt out or tune out, it's nice to remember, oh my God, this is so precious and it's so fleeting. I recently had a job offer that could have been very lucrative. And long-lasting, but it took me out of state, and I was going to be away from my kids too much, and I realized that's just not worth it. Like, the thing that I care about most is taking advantage of these last years, and because if I'm not there to swear at them, who's going to do that? You know. Anyway, there you go. Hi.
Misha, my name is Stephanie. And
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, and I'm sorry if I sound a bit nervous, but it's a dream to talk to you.
You don't sound nervous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My question is, what would be the first thing you want to have if you haven't eaten for 30 days after you were possessed by an angel?
Well, certainly not a communion wafer. Exactly like these Christian themes are really killing me. 30 days without food. I'll tell you, the first thing that pops to mind is I met this guy when I was traveling. I was in Bali, and I met this hippie guy who had been fasting for 17 days. He'd been doing a water fast for 17 days on some spiritual quest. He was very emaciated looking. And he had been planning to try to go for 30 days of fasting with just water. And his vision started to go at 17 days. And so he decided he was going to eat something. And I was like, oh, what did you eat? He was like, well, I talked to someone and they said that if you eat after a long fast, you get really sick and you throw up. So you have to be really careful to eat only a tiny bit. So I talked to some people and they suggested that I start with a cherry tomato. So I think that sounds like sage advice. Just a cherry tomato. So your body doesn't react too horribly. I'll tell you what I wouldn't eat. A burger. Or a pile of burgers. I did this episode of Supernatural where Cass was one of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. Famine had like set a curse on him, and he was just voraciously hungry and couldn't fill the void, and so he was stuffing burgers down his face. And I was kind of like, I think this was maybe season 5, maybe season 6. I, as Cass, because I was an angel who didn't eat, I hadn't had a lot of eating and drinking scenes, and I was a little out of practice, and I kind of forgot, like, they had the bucket there for spitting into, and I was like, no, it's fine, like, we'll get this quick. And then I was like, oh, motherfucker, like, I ate too many burgers. Did you do take after take? And then I was really going through the experience that Cass was going through of, like, being at the point where I needed to find a vomitorium. I needed to purge. And then later that day, like, I'm still like, oh, God, mistakes were made. And we get to a scene where I've been like turned from under some spell, and I'm like a dog, and I'm eating from like a dog dish on the floor on my hands and knees, and there's this pile of raw hamburger meat, and I have to eat it. And it wasn't raw hamburger meat, it was vegetarian, like vegan hamburger meat, which in a way is even worse. And I had to eat without using my hands, just like eat this meat, and I was already actually like on the verge of vomiting because I had actually eaten too many hamburgers at that point. So I don't want that to break my diet.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Hi.
Hi, Cassia.
That's okay.
Hi, Misha.
My kids do it
Hi,
too.
Lois. And I loved your poetry book. That
Thank
was
you.
beautiful.
Thank you very much.
Reading it.
Thanks for reading it.
I would love for you to query this group and settle once and for all the age-old question that's constantly on social media. What character in Supernatural made the best entrance? Castiel or Death?
Well, I don't think there's much contest there. Is there a debate?
It's on Facebook and Instagram and everything constantly. All the Supernatural groups.
What? There's a debate?
There are many pages.
Oh my God, that infuriates me. I want to see these people who are voting for death. I will throw an Nalgene water bottle at them. Can you remind me now, what was Death's entrance? Oh, sure. Oh, sure, piggyback on a hit song. Cheap move. Oh, I remember that. Oh my God, that's so cool. That really rarely happens for me. Oh, that was pretty cool. And Julian's pretty awesome. I didn't even know that it was like I thought that I was just doing a couple of scenes on some weird show and then it would like be a blip in my career, and I paid no attention, and then I got there and I was like reading through the script and I'm like, wait a minute, so what's happening here in this scene? They're shooting me? How the hell are they gonna do that? Like, I did not know what I was getting into at all. In that scene they had these like showers of sparks coming down, and before we shot the first take, they're like, so I think the director, Kim Anderson, was like, I think it'd be cool if you just like don't seem fazed by anything. You're just like, very calm, cool, and collected. And I was like, yeah, that's actually kind of basically me. And then right before we go, one of the special effects people comes up with the hair department in tow, and they're like, we're just going to spritz a little bit of water on your head because some of the sparks might land on your scalp and in your hair, and we just don't want it to catch fire. What are we talking about? And back in the day, this is before like CGI got as advanced as it was toward the end of the show, we were still using real squibs. And squibs are actual gunpowder charges. It's like the equivalent of about half of what's of a load that's in a bullet. Half a load. Approximately, like, the load goes off right there on your chest. And in this case, like, I had multiple loads going off on my chest. So, it takes a while. It takes like 40 minutes to wire it all. There's like wires going down your leg to your boot with a battery and a radio thing. And these squibs go off, and it's an explosion. And then there's like this liquid as well. And so it's like blood and the shirt rips and the fabric rips. And it's also very loud. It's as loud as a gunshot. So we go in to do the first take, and I'm walking in and I'm like, try to stay calm, Mish, try to stay calm. And then the sparks go off, and fuck! Like, I immediately flinch because it's burning my scalp, and I can hear it going, like the embers are just going out on the flesh of my scalp, and then boom, boom, and I'm like, ah! And that's my first few steps on set. First time and all the other cast and crew meet me, and they're like, oh, fuck. This is gonna be a long day. So then it's another 40 minutes to wire another set because it was totally unusable material. And then we did another take, and this time I was determined. And so I walk in like this. And all the while, like, my scalp is burning, and I'm like so nervous and like on edge, and like my nerves are shot, and that's how I established the character. That is the Castiel in perspective. Hi.
Hi, Misha. So back like 2018-ish, the first question I ever asked you was whether or not you would ever consider writing your memoirs with all of your great stories. And you told me no because you thought that was really egotistical.
My God, how far I've come.
So since you
What a childish perspective.
Since you've since written considered whether or not you might ever write your own?
I guess it's some, yeah, probably. I mean, I do have a lot of stories. I've had a weird life. But I think I need to, I would love to be writing from the vantage point of actually having contributed something to the world. So I feel like if I can get to that point in like, you know, in my sunset years, I think that would probably be a good time. Maybe it's like, that's a little carrot to dangle in front of myself. Like, if you're good, you get to write a memoir at some point. I do think the form is somewhat self-indulgent unless it has other people as its focus. But because I'm so megalomaniacal, other people have not been a focus of my life, so it's challenging for me to fold that in. I read this memoir called The Tender Bar, which they actually recently made into a movie. I did not see the movie, but I thought it was beautiful. And it was like, it was an encapsulation of this unusual childhood, which I was also a victim of. But in just a beautiful narrative storytelling way. And I don't know that I'm possessed of the command of language like that to be able to write a memoir. But I don't know. I have been writing. This past year, I spent a lot of time, I spent several years trying to kind of clean my slate so that I had enough time for creative ruminating, and kind of extricated myself from Ish and from some other things, some other like business enterprises that I was working on, and a marriage, and I like finally had the space to be like, all right, so what comes now? What comes from this moment? There's this Rilke, who's an 18th century German quote that I love, which is, everything is gestation and birth. And I love that notion because it's like the creative process for me is one very much of sometimes just waiting and knowing that something's coming, but you don't know what it is, and then being open to whatever that might be when the time is right. And for some reason I sat down with my journal and I started writing some short stories. And I've never written short stories before, or really narrative fiction at all. And I was like, oh, this is fascinating. Like, these whole worlds unfurl. I mean, the only, fiction that I've written any volumes of has been Destiel. I'm kidding. That will now be edited out of context and be like, on Just Jared tomorrow. I ended up writing this short story that turned into kind of like a novella over the last 6 months about a crazy father. Never mind.
So when do we get to read that?
Well, I don't even know if it's really for human consumption, but maybe someday. Thank you.